Sorry, I'm having a little bit of connection issues, so I hope that everybody is seeing me okay and that you're hearing me okay. I just got a little bit of an error message, but hopefully if you're there and you can see me and it's all working fine, let me know. And hopefully I'm not going to have any connection issues today, fingers crossed. Today, like I said, my tea is David's tea, and I am actually drinking a tea called Mother's Little Helper. So it's been that kind of a week for me. I don't know how it's been with you, but Mother's Little Helper is nice because it has some valerian in it, so that helps to calm you down a little bit, and it has chamomile and all those lovely relaxing things. So hopefully that will help me feel relaxed, and then you will all feel more relaxed watching me. So today is an exciting day because one of the books I'm going to talk about today, you may have been hearing about it. It is absolutely the book of 2021 so far, and that is The Push by Ashley Adrain. So some of you may have already read this one. If not, you probably heard people talking about it. It's really huge right now. And I would describe it, for me, you know, it's always hard to sort of say books that it puts you in mind of. But if you're a regular tea and books person, you probably heard me talk about a book called Ask Again, Yes, which I did a while back, which was one of my favorite books. And it has a little bit of that flavor, maybe mixed up with a little bit of Big Little Lies. I would describe it as a mommy psychological thriller, which is, you know, something that we seem to be getting a lot of lately. So it's very interesting. And the book starts off, I don't want to spoil too much for you, so I'll read the beginning, but the beginning is, you will find a little misleading. And that's the thing about this book. It's one of those books, it's really a fast read. You can't take your eyes off of it. It's really engaging. I read it so quickly. I had an idea of where it was going, but I still couldn't stop reading. It was just really enthralling. So, like I say, sometimes you're going to question yourself reading this book about whether or not it actually, for one thing, you're going to question whether or not you have a reliable narrator. And then you're going to question a lot about what she is seeing and feeling. And I don't know at the end if you're really sure of the answers, but this is a nice setup right at the beginning of the book for you. Your house glows at night like everything is on fire. The drapes she chose for the window look like linen, expensive linen. The weave is loose enough that I can usually read your mood. I can watch the girl flip her ponytail when she finishes homework. I can watch the little boy toss tennis balls at the 12-foot ceiling while your wife lunges around the living room in leggings, reversing the day's mess. Toys back in the basket, pillows back on the couch. Tonight, though, you've left the drapes open. Maybe to see the snow falling. Maybe so your daughter could look for reindeer. She's long stopped believing, but she will pretend for you. Anything for you. You've all dressed up. The children are in matching plaid, sitting on the leather ottoman as your wife takes their picture with her phone. The girl is holding the boy's hand. You're fiddling with the record player at the back of the room, and your wife is speaking to you, but you hold up a finger. You've almost got it. The girl jumps up, and your wife, she sweeps up the boy, and they spin. You lift a drink, scotch, and sip it once, twice, and slink from the record like it's a sleeping baby. That's how you always start to dance. You take him. He throws his head back. You tip him upside down. Your daughter reaches up for daddy's kiss, and your wife holds your drink for you. She sways over to the tree and adjusts a string of lights that isn't sitting quite right. And then you all stop and lean toward one another and shout something in unison, some word, perfectly timed, and then you all move again. This is a song you know well. Your wife slips out of the room and her son's face follows robotically. I remember that feeling of being the needed one. Matches. She comes back to light the candles on the decorated mantel, and I wonder if the shaking fir boughs are real, if they smell like a tree farm. I let myself imagine for a moment watching those boughs go up in flames while you all sleep tonight. I imagine the warm butter yellow glow of your house turning to a hot, crackling red. The boy has picked up an iron poker and the girl gently takes it away before you or your wife notices. The good sister, the helper, the protector. I don't normally watch for this long, but you're all so beautiful tonight and I can't bring myself to leave. The snow, the kind that sticks, the kind she'll roll into snowmen in the morning to please her little brother. I turn on my wipers, adjust the heat, and notice the clock change from 7:29 to 7:30. This is when you'd have read her The Polar Express. Your wife, she's in the chair now and she's watching the three of you bounce around the room. She laughs and collects her long, loose curls to the side. She smells your drink and puts it down. She smiles. Your back is to her so you can't see what I can, that she's holding her stomach with one hand, that she rubs herself ever so slightly and then looks down, that she's lost in the thought of what's growing inside her. They are cells, but they are everything. You turn around and her attention is pulled back to the room, to the people she loves. She will tell you tomorrow morning. I still know her so well. I look down to put on my gloves. When I look back up, the girl is standing at your open front door. Her face is half lit by the lantern above your house number. The plate she's holding is stacked with carrots and cookies. You'll leave crumbs on the tile floor of the foyer. You'll play along and so will she. Now she's looking at me sitting in my car. She shivers. The dress your wife bought her is too small and I can see that her hips are growing, that her chest is blooming. With one hand, she carefully pulls her ponytail over her shoulder, and it's more the gesture of a woman than a girl. For the first time in her life, I think, our daughter looks like me. I put down the car window and I lift my hand. A hello, a secret hello. She places the plate at her feet and stands again to look at me before she goes around to go inside, to her family. I watch for the drapes to be yanked closed, for you to come to the door to see why the hell am I parked outside your house on a night like tonight, and what really could I say? I was lonely. I missed her. I deserve to be the mother inside your glowing house. Instead, she prances back into the living room where you've coaxed your wife from the chair. While you dance together close, feeling up the back of her shirt, our daughter takes the boy's hand and leads him to the center of the living room window, an actor hitting her mark on the stage. They were framed so precisely. He looks just like Sam. He has his eyes and that wave of dark hair that ends in a curl, the curl I wrapped around my finger over and over again. I feel sick. Our daughter is staring out the window, looking at me, her hands on your son's shoulders. She bends down and kisses him on the cheek, and then again, and then again. The boy likes the affection. He is used to it. He is pointing to the falling snow, but she won't look away from me. She rubs the top of his arms as though she's warming him up, like a mother would do. You come to the window and kneel down to the boy's level. You look out, and then you look up. My car doesn't catch your eye. You point to the snowflakes like your son, and you trace a path across the sky with your finger. You're talking about the sleigh, about the reindeer. He's searching the night trying to see what you see. You flick him playfully under the chin. Her eyes are still fixed on me. I find myself sitting back in my seat. I swallow and finally look away from her. She always wins. When I look back, she's still there watching my car. I think she might reach for the curtain, but she doesn't. My eyes don't leave her this time. I pick up the thick stack of paper beside me on the passenger seat and feel the weight of my words. I've come here to give this to you. This is my side of the story. So you can probably get a feeling for that. It's a pretty dramatic setup. And like I say, you may find after you've read the book that when you revisit that picture, it looks a little bit different from the idea that you get of it in the beginning and of who the person sitting in the car is. But obviously our heroine was married and had a daughter, and it's just a fascinating book. It goes a lot into her history, especially her psychological history, and her grandmother and her mother, and sort of the whole legacy of family drama that has been handed down to her, and how it affects her relationship with her husband, who she's very, very much in love with. They're both very, very much in love when you start hearing about their story, and her relationship with her daughter, which is the whole thing is fascinating, intense, and full of foreboding. And that's where I'm going to stop because I don't want to give away too much. But like I said, for those of you joining us late, I was just reading from The Push by Ashley Adrain. And this is the book of 2021 so far. It's been getting a lot of attention. Before it was published, it was already optioned for movie and television rights. So it's quite a book. There's quite a waiting list right now at the library if you're looking for it. You might find it a little bit easier if you like ebooks. You might find it a little bit easier to get online because just today I bought a separate copy for our library, so hopefully it should be a little faster if you're waiting for the ebook. And I am waiting for additional copies for the physical book to get it in a little faster as well. But I'm sure many of you have heard about it already from your friends. Now, the next book I'm going to talk about, I'm not actually going to read from it, but I'll tell you a little bit about the book and I'll explain why I'm not going to read from it. So this book is called The Yellow Wife. If you wonder why it's so hard for me to position these things, it's so that my camera is mirrored so that you can see this the right way around. But it means when I look at myself, I'm backwards. So it's kind of confusing. So The Yellow Wife by Scugog Johnson is a really interesting historical novel. The reason I'm not reading from it is that a lot of the language and dialogue in it, of course, is not only Southern, but often it's slaves talking and that sort of thing, and I don't want to improperly represent any accents or anything like that. I don't want to portray the book in a way that could be disrespectful. If you read it, you'll see it's a great book. It's well written. Yellow Wife actually refers to, it's not a very politically correct currently term, but back in the Civil War, prior to the Civil War, the slaves would often refer to people who were of biracial as high yellow. So that meant that the closer you were to being able to look like a white person, the more you sometimes could be received like a better a house position rather than working in the fields, or in some cases, and in the case of this woman, as you can get from the title, The Yellow Wife, you could even be taken on as a sort of a, she never actually marries him, but she has his children and lives in the house and is treated like the mistress of the house. It's a very, very interesting story because it deals with that kind of dichotomy. It is actually, it's fiction, but the writer has an interesting author's note at the end where she explains that she was inspired by the story of an actual person who lived with in the city that I'm having a moment now where I can't remember right now which city this prison is set in. But it's actually the slave owners in particular, or not slave owners, I should say slave traders, because they were very wealthy, but they were not considered to be in a proper profession. So they couldn't get any of the families, the good families, to marry daughters to them. So quite often they would have wives that they picked from the people going through. So this is, a lot of this is set on this slave trader's land, where he has a prison where people are kept before they go up for sale. And it's just a really, really interesting exploration. It's a very real exploration. It's not Virginia, no. Thank you, Donna. I'm trying to remember. Let me quickly look, see if I can get that for you. Since I'm not reading from it, I have time. Oh, you're right. You're right. It is Virginia. I'm wrong. I was trying to think of the city. So you're right, Donna. It is Virginia. It's Virginia she starts off on. She's on a plantation originally near Charles City, Virginia, and she was in a situation where her mother was a healer and a seamstress. So she was brought up a lot at the house with her, with the master's sister taking a particular shine to her. So Phoebe has been taught by the master's sister. She has learned to read. She plays the piano beautifully. She's very, very talented and intelligent, but when the master gets married and his sister has died, the new wife isn't very crazy about Phoebe or her mother, and it ends up that she gets sold away to go to this jail and it's called the Devil's Half Acre, and she lives there in this very interesting kind of half world where she's looking for the man that she loved, because before she left the plantation she had a man that she was very much in love with and wanted to run away with, and it covers so much about that too, because the man that she's in love with runs away and then is chased. So it's a very, very interesting exploration of a slightly different story, I think. And it is, like I say, based on this place that was called the Devil's Half Acre. And this jail and auction house where sorry, I'm still looking because I know that the plantation was near Charles City, but I'm trying to remember. It's the place where actually the author is from, that this jail was, and she was inspired by a trip through one of the museums and found out more about it, and that's what caused her to write this book. But at any rate, if you If you like learning about that type of history, if you've enjoyed things like 12 Years a Slave or some of these Washington Black, it's just a very good book with a very interesting story and historically very very well drawn. So I would recommend that, but like I say, I'm not going to read from that one right now. I'm going to pass right on to my nonfiction pick, which again is one you've probably heard a lot about. It's called Hidden Valley Road. This was an Oprah book pick, so you probably heard of it. It was a big book last year. It's called Hidden Valley Road, Inside the Mind of an American Family by Robert Colker. So for those of you who have seen this book and heard about this book and seen the picture with all of those, you can see all of those kids in the family, then you may not know what it's about. So when I tell you what it's about, you may either be more or less interested. So in fact, this family has 12 children, 10 boys. They had 10 boys first, and then they had 2 girls. And 6 of the boys were later diagnosed as schizophrenic. So this family actually has been one of the major families studied for background on schizophrenia and to find out more about it. Prior to their studies with the Galvin family, they didn't really know that much about whether or not it was genetic. Some people were starting to suspect that there could be a genetic component to schizophrenia, but they were still not really certain. It's to this day, it's a disease that they don't really understand completely. But this particular family is a fascinating study. So if you liked books like The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and that sort of, thing that sort of digs into the history of the genetics of an illness and just the family story. This book is a very interesting book. It's well written and it just covers a lot of different territories. So you find the background of the family, you find some obviously darker things that happened within the family because of the mental illness of so many of the sons and what it led to. A lot of it is slanted from the perspective of the 2 youngest children, the 2 girls, because as the youngest, they obviously were dealing with the family at its, when already many things were spinning out of control. So I'll just read a little bit from the prologue that sort of sets it up nicely. Prologue, 1972, Colorado Springs, Colorado. A brother and sister walk out of their house together through the patio door that opens out from the family kitchen and into their backyard. They're a strange pair. Donald Galvin is 27 years old with deep-set eyes, his head shaved completely bald, his chin showing off the beginnings of a biblically scruffy beard. Mary Galvin is 7, half his height, with white blonde hair and a button nose. The Galvin family lives in the Woodman Valley, an expanse of forest and farmland nestled between the steep hills and sandstone mesas of central Colorado. Their yard smells of sweet pine, fresh and earthy. Near the patio, juncos and blue jays dart around a rock garden where the family's pet, a goshawk named Atoll, stands guard in a mews their father built years ago. With the little girl leading the way, the sister and brother pass by the mews and climb up a steep hill, stepping over lichen-covered rocks they both know by heart. There are 10 children between Mary and Donald in age, 12 Galvin kids in all, enough their father enjoys joking for a football team. The others have found excuses to be as far from Donald as possible. Those not old enough to have moved away are playing hockey or soccer or baseball. Mary's sister, Margaret, the only other girl and the sibling closest to Mary in age, might be with the Scugog sisters next door or down the road at the Choctaws. But Mary, still in 2nd grade, often has nowhere to go after school but home, and no one to look after her but Donald. Everything about Donald confounds Mary, starting with his shaved head and continuing with what he most likes to wear, a reddish-brown bedsheet worn in the style of a monk. Sometimes he completes the outfit with a plastic bow and arrow that his little brothers once played with. In any weather, Donald walks the neighborhood dressed this way, mile after mile, all day and into the night. Down their street, the unpaved Hidden Valley Road, past the convent and the dairy farm in the Woodman Valley, along the shoulders and on to the median strips of highways. He often stops at the grounds of the United States Air Force Academy where their father once worked and where many people now pretend not to recognize him. And closer to home, Donald has stood sentry as children play in the yard of the local elementary school, announcing in his soft, almost Irish lilt that he is their new teacher. He only stops when the principal demands that he stays away. And in those moments, Mary, a 2nd grader, is sorrier than ever that her world is so small that everyone knows that she is Donald's sister. Mary's mother is well practiced at laughing off moments like these, behaving as if nothing is strange. To do anything else would be the same as admitting that she lacks any real control over the situation, that she cannot understand what is happening in her house, much less how to stop it. Mary, in turn, has no choice but to not react at all to Donald. She notices how closely both her mother and father monitor all of their children now for warning signs. Peter with his rebellion, Brian and his drugs, Richard getting expelled, Jim picking fights, Michael checking out completely. To complain or cry or show any emotion at all, Mary knows, will send the message that something might be wrong with her too. And the fact is that the days when Mary sees Donald in the bedsheet are better than some of the other days. Sometimes after school she comes home to find Donald in the middle of an undertaking only he can understand, like transplanting every last piece of furniture out of the house and into the backyard, or pouring salt into the aquarium and poisoning all the fish. Other times he is in the bathroom, vomiting his medications, stelazine and thorazine, and Haldol and Prolixin and Artane. Sometimes he is sitting in the middle of the living room, quietly, completely naked. Sometimes the police are there, summoned by their mother after hostilities have broken out between Donald and one or more of his brothers. But most of the time, Donald is consumed by religious matters, explaining that St. Ignatius conferred upon him a degree in spiritual exercise and theology. He spends much of every day and many nights reciting in full voice the Apostles' Creed and the Lord's Prayer, and a list of his own devising that he calls Holy Order of Priests, the logic of which is known only to him. DOM, Benedictine, Jesuit, Order of the Sacred Heart, Immaculate Conception, Mary, Immaculate Mary, Oblate Order of Peace, Priests, May Family, Blackfriar, the Holy Ghost, Franciscan at the Convent, One Holy Universe, Apostolic, Trappist. For Mary, the prayers are like a faucet that won't stop dripping. "Stop it!" she shrieks, and yet Donald never does, pausing barely long enough to breathe. She sees what he's doing as a rebuke of her entire family, but mostly of their father, a faithful Catholic. Mary idolizes her father. So does every other Galvin child. Even Donald did before he got sick. When Mary sees her father coming and going from the house whenever he likes, she is envious. She thinks about the sense of control that her father must enjoy, working so hard all the time. Hard enough to get out. It is the way her brother singles out Mary that she finds most unbearable. Not because he is cruel, but because he is kind, even tender. Her full name is Mary Christine, and so Donald, has decided that she is Mary, the Sacred Virgin and Mother of Christ. "I am not!" Mary cries again and again. She believes that she is being teased. It would not be the first time that one of her brothers has tried to make a fool of her. But Donald is so unmistakably serious, so fervent, so reverential, it only makes Mary angrier. He has made Mary the exalted object of his prayers, bringing her into his world, which is the last place that she would ever want to be. The idea that Mary comes up with, the solution to the problem of Donald, is a direct response to the rage she feels. Her inspiration comes from the Sword and Sandals epic that her mother sometimes watches on television. The idea starts with her saying, "Let's go up to the hill." Donald consents, anything for the Sacred Virgin. It continues with Mary suggesting that they build a swing on a tree branch. "Let's bring a rope," she says. Donald does as she says. And it concludes at the top of the hill, where Mary selects a tree, one of many tall pines, and tells Donald that she'd like to tie him to it. Donald says yes, and hands her the rope. Even if Mary were to reveal her plan to Donald, to burn him at the stake, like the heretics in the movies, it is doubtful that he would react. He is too busy praying. He stands tightly against the tree trunk, lost in his own stream of words, as Mary walks around the tree with the rope, circling and pulling until she believes he cannot break free. Donald does not resist. She tells herself that no one will miss him when he's gone, and that no one will ever suspect her. She goes searching for kindling and brings back armfuls of twigs and branches, dropping them at his bare feet. Donald is ready. If Mary really is who he insists she is, he can hardly say no. He is calm, patient, kind. He adores her. But on this day, Mary is serious only to a point. She has no matches, no way to make a fire. More crucially, she is not like her brother. She is grounded, her mind rooted in the real world. If nothing else, Mary is determined to prove that, not just to her mother, but to herself. So, she abandons her plan. She strands Donald on the hill. He stays up there, surrounded by flies and past flowers, standing in a place and praying for a very long time. Long enough that Mary gets some time to herself, but not so long that he doesn't come back down again. So that gives you a little bit of flavor for this family and how they operate, which is a little bit strange. So if you're fascinated by abnormal psychology, I certainly am, or if you just want to find out more about this family and their psychology and the weird stories that happen as one brother after another falls to this horrible mental illness. It's certainly an enthralling read. I listened to it through audiobook, and it's just a really interesting insight into a very strange and fascinating family. So that is all I am going to talk about today. So I'm glad you could all join me today. And just to recap, for anybody who joined late, the 3 books we talked about were The Push by Ashley Adrain, The Yellow Wife by Sadika Johnson, and Hidden Valley Road by Robert Colker. So our next Tea and Books is happening the first Thursday of April, which I believe is April 1st. And Kyle is going to be doing that one, and hopefully he doesn't play any jokes on you. And in the meantime, thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a lovely weekend and maybe a chance to get out and enjoy this really lovely sunny day. Thanks a lot. Bye.